April 24th, 1964, 5:45 p.m. Officer Lonnie Zamora of the Socorro, New Mexico Police Department is pursuing a black Chevrolet speeding down Old Rodeo Street when he hears a loud roar and sees a bluish flame to the southwest. Zamora abandons pursuit of the vehicle and radios that he is investigating a possible explosion. As he nears the spot, he expects to see an accident.
Being a cop, he has that curiosity factor. Something happened out of the ordinary. What was that flash? Comes up over a little rise. There, about 75 yards from him, is an object sitting on the ground.
A shiny metallic object that has landed to the side of the road in the desert. He estimates it is approximately 30 feet wide, the size of a small RV today. He also claims the egg-shaped craft has 4 landing supports at its base.
He sees this sort of egg-shaped craft sitting on the ground with what seem to be 2 child-sized beings next to it. One-piece outfits.
Suddenly, the object lifts off with the same bluish flame traveling to the southeast. It disappears within minutes.
A subsequent investigation of UFOs by the United States Air Force found physical trace evidence that supported Officer Zamora's testimony. This included a quadrangle formation of landing legs, 4 impressions in the ground from the craft's ladder, and finally, 4 footprints from the small beings that were observed by Zamora.
The case is still carried as an unknown in the Air Force files, and believe me, they tried everything to put something conventional in there.
Pat is in Socorro, New Mexico, and has come to meet with Lonnie Zamora, the subject of one of James McDonald's top UFO cases. Zamora hasn't talked about his 1964 encounter in the desert in over a decade, but after years of scrutiny, Lonnie hopes that he can help prove what he saw was not a hoax.
So what did you see from this vantage point?
From here I could see down on top of it, sort of an egg-shaped object. I'd say about 30 to 40 feet wide. I didn't know what it was until I started moving towards it. I realized it was something that I had never seen before. So I thought maybe it would be some kind of Air Force experiment, you know, at the first.
So at first you thought maybe this was a military aircraft of some sort?
Yeah, something like that.
Well, it was investigated and they found out that there was no such aircraft.
Yeah, there was nothing here, you know.
The odd shape and structure of the object Lonnie describes is similar to the lunar module. In fact, Air Force investigators initially theorized that this might be a test of this top-secret vehicle. But further analysis quickly proved this theory wrong. A flyable working model of the lunar module was not ready until 1965, a full year after Zamora's sighting. But whatever landed here left evidence behind.
Now you're saying there were actual indentations from the craft down here?
Yes, the crafts were around there. And there's one indentation right there.
This is one of the original indentations?
Yeah, right there.
Okay, one of them's there.
Another one over there.
Okay.
Where the rock is. And I had one over there and one over here. So it was 4.
So right after the craft lifted off, these indentations were fresh?
Right. Real fresh.
The indentations are not the only physical traces the craft leaves. According to Lonnie, bushes burn and rocks smolder at the landing site.
So Lonnie, where were these bushes exactly?
Well, there was a big one right there, and one right there, right up here. And they were all burning. This was the one that's burning more, you know. You couldn't get near it. It was just burning.
Do you think this fire here was directly related to the object you saw?
Yeah, when it took off, yeah.
But this evidence is quickly confiscated by Air Force investigators who arrive soon after Lonnie does. and McDonald reveals it wasn't the Air Force that asked for this debris to be collected and taken away. It was the FBI. Adding to the mystery, the files reveal that the FBI didn't want anyone to know they were working on the case. The reason is never fully revealed.
They were excited about it, you know, try to ask questions, but they wouldn't let me answer any questions. Just keep it quiet for a while.
Air Force told you to keep this quiet for a while.
James McDonald was interested in breaking that silence and doggedly tracked down specialists who had been brought in by the government to investigate Lonnie's sighting. His files indicate one expert, a Mary Mays from the University of New Mexico, was enlisted to analyze plant material. In an interview with McDonald, Mays described the location and reported seeing a 25 to 30-inch patch of fused sand at the landing site. According to her, a small area of desert had turned to glass. One test may shed additional light on Lonnie's story. In hopes of adding to McDonald's investigation, Pat aims to find out just how much energy it would take to melt the sand from the site of Zamora's encounter.
I'm meeting Patrick Morrissey, a glassblower with 30 years of experience who's going to tell me exactly how sand fuses into glass. And I've specifically brought sand from the Socorro landing site where Lonnie Zamora saw the craft land. Now, you know that there are various theories about what happened. One of them is that something landed and fused the sand from incredibly high temperatures. Another theory is that they may be hoaxers somehow fused the sand. So what I'd like to know from you is, what does it take to fuse sand into glass?
First what we're going to have to do is we're going to take it off of here. We're going to use this plate right here.
Okay.
And then we're going to put them into our glass glory hole over here and see if we can melt it.
So Patrick, while this is heating up, I'd like to ask you a few questions. Let's say these hoaxers came out with some equipment, let's say a blowtorch.
Right.
Could that work? If a hoaxer brought out a blowtorch and tried to fuse sand?
It's a pretty good flame, but that would not really melt any glass at all. It's just not hot enough.
So basically you're saying you need an oven to melt glass.
That's right.
I think I see the sand changing color.
It's starting to bond a little bit. Now don't let that bond fool you. It's not glass. Not yet anyway.
After nearly 25 minutes, the sand sample from the Zamora site is ready to be examined.
It's kind of hot.
About how hot?
Oh, right now it's definitely at least 2,100 degrees.
So 2,100 degrees Fahrenheit is sufficient to melt sand.
2,100 degrees is hot enough to melt the sand that you brought to me.
So now, according to our reports, there was a huge patch of fused glass at the landing site.
Okay.
So you're saying it takes 2,100 degrees to create
25
this?
minutes
to
melt that little piece.
Right.
Right.
So the hoaxer
It
scenario,
is kind of hard to believe.
it takes over 2,100 degrees and some duration of time to melt sand, maybe over 20 to 25 minutes to melt the sand. So in Patrick's professional opinion, the hoaxer scenario is unlikely.
Pat's finding adds great validity to Lonnie Zamora's story. Local historian and reporter Paul Hardin recently covered Zamora's sighting in the El Defensor Chieftain newspaper, and after more than 40 years, he found that Zamora's story still has legs. Not only did he provide descriptions of the object's size, appearance, speed, and behavior, but reports described marks left in the sand by the object, as well as fused sand and scorched brush. Numerous witnesses to these strange physical traces are on scene within minutes after the sighting.
So immediately you have a fair number of law enforcement agents that were at the scene 10 minutes or so after Lonnie saw it.
When you say at the scene, you mean they went to the landing site?
They went to the actual landing site.
Okay, and so these were law officers that could confirm that there were landing impressions in the dirt.
Correct.
And that there were burned bushes.
Well, as a matter of fact, in the original Defensor Chieftain story, they cite how when they arrived at the scene, the plants were still smoldering.
Wow.
So, you know, tells you something happened. No doubt in my mind that the incident happened.
Many people have looked into the Zamora sighting, but few have come up with any solid conclusions. Some believe this is because Zamora has remained silent for over a decade.